In this lecture, we want to make our character slide in from the left side when the round starts. Open up the content drawer and find the BP Samurai. And open it up. Here on the event graph, we can scroll down a little bit and right-click to create a custom event. And I'm gonna call it Slide In. We can then right-click again to create a timeline. Add timeline. And I'll call the Slide In Anim. And we connect this to play from start. So let's talk a bit about what timelines are first. Timelines allow us to create keyframes and change values over time, which is perfect in this example of moving a sprite around, but also has many other applications. The update here will be triggered on every frame, and we can use that to change the location of the sprite. So we can drag off here and set relative location of the paper sprite. And clean this up a little bit. Right, so now we need to have the new location where we want to set our sprite. We want to move from outside the screen to the start location where our sprite is currently now. So we can drag off here and look for lerp vector. Lerp stands for linear interpolation, and it gives us a value between a and b based on the alpha. The alpha is a value between 0 and 1, meaning that if it's 0, we get the value of a, if it's 1, we get the value of b. And if it's 0.5, for example, we get the value in between. Since we want to start sliding in from outside the screen, we first need to decide the a value. And we can just go onto the viewport and look for the paper sprite and just drag it around to see how far we want to go. So I think about like minus 150 on the x-axis looks about right. But let's just set this back to 0 here and go back to the event graph. Right, so we could start at minus 150 here, and the default position is 0, 0, 0. So we want to go from minus 150 on the x to 0, so this is fine. However, writing the numbers like this is not very clean, so we'll create variables later. But for now, it's fine. And we can create some space here. And what we need now is the alpha value, which we can get from our timeline once we set it up. Double-click to open it up. We can click on plus track to create a new track. Here we need a float track and call it alpha. Again, we want to have a value between 0 and 1 to move between the a and b value. So we can create some keyframes here that go between 0 and 1. Let's keep it very simple at first. Right-click, add key to the time of 0 and also the value of 0 and press enter. And then right-click again, add another key to the time of 1 second, and the value of 1. And you can zoom out here with the mouse wheel to check it out. Oh, sorry, I middle-clicked. And we can revert with Control and Z. But yeah, you can just zoom out with the mouse wheel and move around with the right-click here. You can see though that the timeline is 5 seconds long, and we want to match this to our keyframes. So up here we can change it from 5 to 1. So it's the same length. And just compile and save. And now we can go back to the event graph and connect the alpha value here, which will just go from 0 to 1 within 1 second. However, we're still not calling this function anywhere. So we can go up to begin play and look for slide in. Yeah, call the function slide in. And now when we go back to the map and start the game, you can see that the character slides in from the left. And this is exactly what we wanted to do. However, it does look a little bit boring, it's kind of slow, so we can do a lot of things to make this look more impactful. The first thing you want to do is make this animation play out faster. So down here under the slide in event, we can right click and look for slide in anim, and down here get slide in anim, which is a reference to this timeline. And here we can set play rate and connect this here and make sure that's play from start here. and align the nodes. Yes, so the new rate here, the new rate allows us to set a multiplier for how fast we want to play this. So for example, 1.0 would just be the regular speed, but we want to make it twice as fast. So we can simply put in 2.0. And it will be sped up. And we can check this on our map. Yeah, so the animation is twice as fast now as it was before. However, it's still a bit boring. There is one principle of animation which we can use that is called overshooting, in which our character will move a little bit too far and then snap back, which gives it a lot more impact. So we can go back into the blueprint, open up the slide in anim timeline, and instead of just going from 0 to 1, we can create another curve, another keyframe, right click, add another keyframe at 0.85, and the value should be 1.1. So we're actually going over 1. And we can also left click and select all of these, right click and go to auto interpolation to give it a little nice curve, which also makes the movement a bit smoother. And if we look at it now, our character goes a bit too far and snaps back, which makes this look a lot cooler and more impactful. Now let's take care of these magic numbers that we have here that are not very nice to look at. It's much better to have these in variables. So we can drag off of A and promote to variable. And call it slide start pause. And move it down here, create some space, double click the alpha line to make a reroute node. And we can select both of these and press Q to align them. And we want to do a similar thing for B. However, we want it to be a little bit different. The thing with B is that in this case, our location is 0.00 for our sprite. However, if you use a different sprite, maybe you have to move it more up or down. So we actually just want to get the position of our sprite and save it in a variable on begin play. So back in the event graph, we can go to begin play. Before we slide in, we can drag our paper sprite into the scene, into the event graph, drag off of it and get relative location. So this will give us the location that we set here in the viewport. And here we can then drag off and promote to variable. And this is the sprite. I gotta select it and change the name. Sprite default pause. And again, connect these nodes here and put them on the same line. And we can select all of these and press Q to make it easier. And now we can go down here and use this sprite default position for B. And align the reroute node. And everything still works the same. However, now we have these variables which we can easily change. And I hope this showed you how useful timelines can be and also how you can move sprites around the screen without a character movement component.